Blackbird, Raven, Crow by Morgan Keeler. Chapter 1. Free will can be a real bitch. Trust me, I fucking know. It's my line of work to know. You could call me an expert in the field. And as an expert in the field, I can tell you it's a real bona fide bitch sometimes. My name is Raven. Gabe and Michael's crowd like to call me Blackbird. Makes them feel better to use a cutesy little name for me. The other side calls me Crow. Makes them feel like I'm one of them, but I'm no demon. My friends call me Ray. Not that I have that many of them. I'm not exactly made for friendships. You have to remain impartial when you're a judge. It doesn't do you any good to get cozy with either side. I'm supposed to be the embodiment of neutrality and impartiality. That's me. A fucking paragon of detachment and objectivity. I've always preferred the company of humans anyway. Their angels are a bit snobby for my taste. Easily offended. They can't take a fucking joke. And they don't hold their liquor well. Shit, Gabe gave up drinking completely for a long time after Prohibition. And Mike, he carries a flaming fiery sword everywhere. Not exactly the sort of guy you can take out on the town. But there are some drawbacks to human company. Fleeting lifespan, for one thing. But God, their souls are so beautiful. Angels are bright, blinding lights. They're completely steady. Demons? You don't even want to know. They vary from bits of ash to holes in the fabric of the universe to things out of your worst nightmares. Both sides are almost painful to look at. So I try my best to never look deeper than the surface that they present. But humans? Gorgeous. Colors, constantly shifting, getting brighter and dimmer, wavering between the dark and the light, like fragile candle flames. The guys who wrote the Bible say that humans were created in God's image. Do you know why? Because of free will. God chooses. He has free will. Angels only do the will of God. They have no choice. Not if they want to remain angels anyway. But those humans, in those bodies that are made of dust, they hold the real spark of the divine, the ability to know both good and evil. That spark of the divine. That free will is the same reason they flicker, and the same reason they're fragile, and the same reason they die and are extinguished. And that free will's the reason I exist. Not that they get that much work out of me nowadays. I think my last big possession case was more than a half a century ago. Don't get me wrong, possessions happen, but not the kind that necessitate my intervention. The ones I have to get involved with are the ones that involve a true overpowering of a human's free will. There's plenty of the other kinds around, where a kid was playing with a Ouija board or doing something satanic, or some other dumb shit where they invite something in, but that's a different sort of thing. Those are people who are asking for it, but that real demonic invasion stuff it doesn't happen in this modern era in a place like Kansas City. And I'm okay with that. Gives me time to pursue my hobbies, take care of my cats. These days I handle territory disputes, noise complaints, arbitrations, that sort of thing. But the last year, things got complicated. And like I said, free will is a bitch, and I'm going to have to pour myself another drink if I have to tell the story. My job is all about rules. Laws set up at the dawn of humanity when you people were just developing rational and irrational thoughts that went beyond just instinct. I'm not talking about a literal Garden of Eden either. There was no literal garden. I'm pretty sure about that. No literal snake, no literal tree, no literal fruit. Although a lot of people, both human and otherwise, would like to say that there was. Yes, I know. I deal with angels and demons, the host of heaven and hell, on a daily basis. I should believe in the literal Bible, right? Especially since I live on the shiniest part of the silver buckle on the Bible Belt. No, I'm not a creationist. None of the judges are. We have been watching humanity for millennia. We have watched humanity evolve. We continue to watch humanity evolve. Who knows what they will be in the next 1,000 years, and who knows if humanity will even make it to the next 1,000 years. Maybe I'll be safeguarding the free will of a super intelligent race of cockroaches by then. But I digress. It pretty much boils down to this. Heaven and hell can interfere with the lives of humanity as they see fit. But humanity still has to maintain free will. They have to be able to choose, and sometimes the choices they are presented with can be shitty, but they are the ones that they have to make that shitty choice. No angel or demon can make it for them. This is the basic law that I protect. There's a lot more to it, mostly procedural. Stuff like inspections and statutes of limitations and forms. Most of my time is just spent listening to both sides complain about each other. And paperwork. Lots and lots of paperwork. I suck at paperwork. Heaven and hell, just layer upon layer of bureaucracy stretching out into eternity. I'm stuck in the middle of all the layers, buried in a sea of forms and emails. For the last century, my job's been pretty boring. Humans have become quite adept at violating each other's free will, so much so that demonic manipulation has become almost a thing of the past. Human violations are not my jurisdiction, and therefore not my problem. Don't get me wrong, it's still horrible. I've seen human beings do things to each other that are beyond anything the demonic has come up with. But like I said, free will can be a real bitch. Let me give you some examples just from my jurisdiction. The Trail of Tears, the genocide of both the Missouri and Kansas tribes, slavery, the Civil War. All of that is on humanity. Humanity can be really fucking horrible to each other. But like I said, not my responsibility. It had been at least 60 years since my last real demonic possession case. I was enjoying life. I had bought some property, an old abandoned church downtown. I moved in, set up my office, took in some stray cats. I had enough space for all the art I had collected over the years. And demons couldn't just manifest inside the place anytime they wanted because it was consecrated ground. The location was perfect. Close to Union Station, easy access to the best barbecue and Mexican food in town. Life was pretty good. I even had time to almost have a social life. I would go out to the bars at night, sometimes even the human ones. I hung out at the coffee shops during the day, answered emails on my laptop. I had even stopped looking at everything through the spiritual sight and habitually started looking at everything the way that humans do, through a glass, darkly. It's an apt description. Humans see the reflection of the light, but not the light itself. It isn't a bad way of seeing the world. It makes life more interesting. There are more surprises when you can't look directly at the truth. The angels that came through would give me shit for going native, but I didn't care. It was a relief to just exist instead of constantly being on duty every second of the day. Amanda showed up in my life while I comfortably existed like this. She was a ball of purple flame and smoke. My darkened vision couldn't even cloud out the color of her soul. She would hang out in the bar and drink and argue about religion and politics. She was one of only a few humans I ever saw walk into Saul's bar of their own volition. Most people get a little freaked out by the normal clientele, but Amanda was different. She was special. I admit that when I met her, I wasn't in my best form. If I was, maybe I would have seen things coming. I was comfortable, and I had gotten lazy. I thought in this modern era I could sit on my ass and enjoy myself. For millennia, I had been a judge, jury, and executioner. I deserved a break, didn't I? Humanity had evolved. The demonic had stepped back, content to just collect on what evil humans did to each other. Angels did what they do. I wasn't exactly in high demand for anything that wasn't actually important in the grand scheme of things. I hadn't had to banish anyone to the place outside of the firmament for a really long time. I could be a boring, happy bureaucrat for the rest of eternity, or at least until the next apocalypse. Everyone else had done it. The ghouls were all working as morticians now. The redcaps were working for the drug cartels. Most of the nature spirits were employed as environmental lobbyists. The world had changed, and we had to change with it. I figured I deserved a rest, at least until the next time civilization collapsed. As long as I had access to a supply of good whiskey and local beer and a skilled barista, I would be happy. Looking back, I know when it all started to go south. I was doing my normal rounds, checking in a new angelic arrival at Union Station, one of Mike's guys. His name was Jaziel. Stereotypical angel, good-looking, clean-cut, well-groomed. He looked like most other guys who had his job description. I took him to lunch at Harvey's inside the station, gave him a rundown of the rules. This is all just the standard talk everybody gets when they come to the area. As you know, I have to go through the terms and conditions with you just as I would with a demon of your equivalent rank, I told him, pulling the paperwork out of my coat pocket for him to sign. Of course, I know the drill. He said, let's just get on with it. I have an important meeting at 3. Oh, not a problem. The rules are as follows. No angel or demonic being shall, without invitation, take control of an individual or group of humans at any time without proper protocol. Specific states of altered consciousness are allowed for brief interactions such as vision, hallucinations, dreams, prophecies, etc. However, complete subjugation of a human's moral compass and personality for the benefit of the cause of the subjugator is forbidden unless express invitation from a human host has been received and properly documented. Violations of the Treaty of Hittikel will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law up to and including banishment to the outer reaches beyond the firmament where there is wailing and gnashing of teeth. Sign here, initial here, and here. He signed and initialed at all the appropriate places while I paid the check. So what are you here for, Jaziel? To answer a prayer. A pastor has been praying for deliverance and salvation for the city and the world. He finished initialing the last place of the document and handed it back to me. Can I ask you something? Aren't you sick of seeing the suffering and pain humans cause themselves? The wasted lives, the failures, the apathy? It makes me sick to my stomach every time I end up on this plane. You're asking the wrong guy, I said. I'm made from the earth, just like they are. I see how they live and how they die, how they love and how they hate. Their lives are here one day and gone the next. Why not spend that time eating, drinking and being merry. Care for more coffee? I poured myself another cup. You blackbirds disgust me. Your kind always have. You're covered with that same stench of indulgence. You were given a divine responsibility, just like they were. Yet you use your position to fill your belly with the things of the earth instead of caring for the highest good of the beings you were sent here to protect. Watch it, Jazeel. This is my place, my land, my people. You're nothing more than a visitor here. I can make your time here very difficult if I want. I suggest you move along and go take care of your pastor you're here to see before something comes out of your mouth that you're really going to regret. I'm going to sit here and enjoy my coffee and maybe order some dessert. Fill my belly with all the human indulgence that I care to fill it with. In other words, you can go fuck yourself. Your boss and I go way back, Jazeel. Don't make me call and file a complaint, I said. He left without saying another word. I didn't intend to call Mike. It would just end up causing more paperwork. Now I realize I should have called him then and there. And that was 2 years ago. I didn't give Jazeel another thought after that. His visa didn't expire for the next 100 years. He wasn't going to be due for an inspection for another 10. But this isn't really about Jazeel. This is about Amanda. Amanda. It's hard for me to talk about her. Even now, after everything, I still feel guilty. I have lived for tens of thousands of years, and I only have one regret. Her. I should have paid attention. I should have looked away from the dark glass to see things clearly, but I didn't. I was lazy, complacent. I didn't see it. Even through human eyes, it was there. I didn't do what I should have, and she paid the price for that. A lot of people paid the price, but Amanda, she was my friend, my only real friend. Somehow, she wandered into the bar I was in one night with some friends from college. I had no idea what they were doing in there, or for that matter, even how they found the entrance. The place was a dive bar frequented by customers of the more supernatural variety. The owner is a retired incubus. Most humans don't feel exactly comfortable when they get close to the place. But not Amanda. She enjoyed it, the thrill of being somewhere with people who were different than she was. The place was packed that night, wall to wall people, except my booth in the back corner where I was sipping whiskey in the shadows, watching the crowd. Being a judge doesn't exactly make you a popular guy. She brought in a few people from her journalism class. They were looking for interesting people to interview. She slid into my booth without asking permission to sit down, smiled, and started asking me questions. I don't know why she chose me in that place full of bizarre characters, but she did. I'm not much to look at. I'm not supposed to stand out or be noticed. She told me I looked like I had stories to tell. I didn't, of course. Nothing that I couldn't tell her anyway. Nothing that she would believe. But that's what she did. Amanda collected stories. All kinds of stories from all kinds of people. She believed in that soft, trusting way that youth does, that everyone has a story worth telling. She could talk to anyone, and she did. She was a reader, a writer, After the first visit, she became a regular at the bar, even though her friends never came back with her. She told me that we had the most interesting people she had ever met, and she was probably right. Amanda was a smart one, with a hell of a memory. She read everything she could get her hands on. She told me that as a child she had run out of books to read, so she read an old set of encyclopedias her mom had kept from her childhood. She absorbed everything she read. She understood people well, too. She read them like she read books, and everything that has happened, I think she had a way of seeing beyond that dark glass and the veil that separates this world from the next. But she wanted to only see the good in everything around her, only the light, none of the darkness. She was right about that. There really is good everywhere. But for every bit of good, there's another bit of evil. Most of us operate in the middle, somewhere between the light and the dark. I tried to explain this to her, to show her the span of infinite color and shade between the extremes, but she never wanted to see what wasn't sweetness and light. She willfully closed her eyes to it, just like most humans do. She was here every week. She told me about her childhood in Stull, Kansas, how she went to her grandmother's church, how her brothers annoyed her, and how they still annoyed her. We talked about the books she read, ancient philosophies, about politics, about religion. She was so passionate about all of it. So passionate. She wanted to write books with all the stories that she collected. She wanted to meet the perfect guy and get married and have kids. She wanted to do many things. And she had so much life burning inside of her, so much fire, so much energy. She would make the world better, and she knew that she would. One day, she showed up, and her soul fire burned differently than it had before. It was brighter somehow, but also paler. She told me about a man she had met, a man who knew things about her that no one else knew, even though they had never met. She said he could see into your soul, and that he knew things about God and how to be really and truly good and how to stand and fight against the evil in the world. She was going to a meeting on campus that night and had to cut things short with me. I wouldn't mind, would I? I did mind. I actually felt envious, but I said nothing. I let her go without a word. I shouldn't be emotionally attached to her, to a human. Their lives are too short to get attached to one individual. Every time I saw her after that, her soul was a shade brighter, shade paler. It became steadier. Less like a candle, more like a light bulb. She told me that she was in love with God, in love with her newfound spirituality, this new way of thinking, of seeing life. She wanted me to come with her so I could see it too. And like an idiot, I declined. A week later, her flame barely flickered at all. She told me how God loves me, that God wants the best for me, for everyone, and she spoke with such fervency, like a zealot. So certain of everything, she knew that she had been called to a higher purpose now. Everything she had been up to this point had only happened to lead her to this moment. Everything she had read, everything she had studied, every single bit of her young life had culminated in this purpose. She told me she was to call out those that were truly good and holy, those called out by God. She said she had looked into my soul and saw emptiness there, the need for salvation, for God. What an asshole I was. It seemed so silly to me. Cute. I mean, here I am, a being who was created to be a cog in the machinery of heaven and hell, being lectured by a girl barely in her 20s who binge-watched Doctor Who and could recite whole passages from Harry Potter. I laughed in her face. Like I said, I'm an asshole. She was so angry. She started spewing Bible verses at me, and that got her in trouble. See, incubi, retired or otherwise, don't care for stuff from that book. And Saul prohibits proselytizing at the bar. He says it makes the other patrons uncomfortable. He asked her to leave, and I went with her to walk her home. Ray, come on. I want you to come to one of my meetings, she said. I know you feel like it will just be another hypocritical religious thing, and I know you feel like you aren't meant to fit with people like that. We all sin, Ray. No one sin is any bigger than any other in the sight of God. Even hidden things, things from our past, all can be forgiven, no matter the depths of darkness that we've fallen into. Look, Amanda, the stuff I'm hiding isn't the sort of thing people understand, I said. I know you're homosexual, Ray, she said, stopping short. That is an abomination to the Lord. If you want to have peace, Ray, God can help you. And these people will not judge you. You want me to try to pray away the gay? I laughed. I laughed even harder than I had before. I wasn't gay. I didn't even have the parts to give a fuck about sexuality or gender. And then I saw the hurt in her face. She was serious. I'm not gay, Amanda, I said, catching my breath. And what I am doesn't need saving. She turned her back on me and walked away. Come on, Amanda, I'm joking, I said as I followed her. It's not funny, Ray. It's not funny. And then I apologized. I'm sorry. And come with me tomorrow. There's a meeting. I want you to meet Jeremiah and the other believers. It would mean so much to me if you did. So I promised her I would go. I had to. It was Amanda.